Texas didn't get much help this weekend, but there still may be a path for the Horns to make the college football playoff. I'll tell you how it could happen next on Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You were locked on to the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you, everydayers, for making Locked On Longhorns your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It was a huge recruiting weekend for Texas. We'll get to that. Plus, we've got a few game balls to hand out for the big victory over Texas A&M. But first, unfortunately, the Longhorns got very little help over the college football weekend. Steve Sarkisian strongly argued for the Longhorns to be in the playoff following Friday night's win over the Aggies, and I agree with him. But we all kind of knew that Texas was probably going to need some chaos to unfold on Saturday for them to earn a spot in the field of 12, right? With Texas ranked 16th going into the weekend, it felt like we needed a number of teams ranked ahead of us to slip up. And sadly, only one team ranked in the top 15, aka ahead of Texas, suffered a loss this weekend. And that was number 15, Michigan, who lost to number 1, Ohio State. Michigan had no business being ranked ahead of Texas anyways, and now they won't be. But again, the overarching point here is only them losing isn't going to help the Horns' chances a whole lot. Oklahoma survived LSU. Alabama survived Auburn in the Iron Bowl. Notre Dame smashed Stanford. Miami beat Pitt. Utah and BYU both won. There were some close calls in there, but not much broke the way that we wanted. So the question now, is there any chance, and I mean any chance, for Texas to get in? Cross your fingers and say a prayer. It's going to take a minor miracle. And really, the answer to that question all depends on what happens in tomorrow night's penultimate college football playoff rankings. The real rankings and the bracket comes out on Sunday, but because the Longhorns and so many other teams involved in the CFP conversation don't have any games between now and Sunday, what happens tomorrow night will be a telltale sign of what's going to happen in the actual field. If Texas is ranked ahead of Vanderbilt, which they should be, considering the fact that Texas beat Vanderbilt this year. If Texas is ranked ahead of Miami this week, which they should be, considering the fact that Miami's strength of schedule is 36 spots below Texas. If Texas is ranked ahead of Utah, which they should be, considering Utah's best win is against an Arizona State team that was playing without its starting quarterback, then there's the scenario that exists for the Longhorns to make it. If not, well, it's easy to feel like there's a reason not, because Texas was ranked below all three of those teams in last week's rankings, and it's all over but the crying. Hopefully the College Football Playoff Committee is smart enough to realize that Texas has a much better resume than any of those teams that I just mentioned and a few other teams that I did not mention. But considering the fact that they haven't realized it to this point, I don't know if all of a sudden that is going to change after a big win over Texas A&M. As of right now, Texas has a 1.7% chance to make the playoff, according to ESPN's FPI. So, Lloyd, I'm telling you, there's a chance. But again, it'll take a few things. Let's just say the committee does come to their senses and remembers that Texas beat Vanderbilt, and remember that Texas has 3 top 10 wins, while, Vandy's only ranked win was against number 25 Tennessee, who won't be ranked this week. Let's just say the committee realizes that losing to SMU and Louisville and playing a bunch of cupcakes ACC teams really isn't that impressive, and that Utah going 10-2 in the Big 12 with 3-9 UCLA as their toughest non-conference game isn't all that good either. Let's just say Texas is ranked ahead of those 3 teams following that 10-point win over a Texas A&M team that a lot of people were arguing should have been ranked number 1 going into Friday. If that happens and the Longhorns find themselves ahead of those teams, then we get to step 2. So what would have to happen during Conference Championship Saturday for Texas to have a prayer? At that point, You only really need two things. Number one, Georgia has to smoke Alabama in the SEC championship game. And I mean smoke them. Like if it's a close game and Georgia wins, Bama's still going to make it, even though that'll be their third loss because, well, they've already beaten Georgia once this season, and they won't get punished too much for losing a conference championship game if it is close. But if the Bulldogs win by like 4 touchdowns, and that's Bama's third loss of the year, it's definitely possible that the committee could drop them out. So that's number one. Not only does Georgia have to win, they've got to win by a landslide. And then number two, Texas Tech needs to beat BYU in the Big 12 championship. The Big 12 needs to be a one-bid league. It already should be, regardless of what happens at Jerry World this Saturday. But if BYU beats Tech, both of those teams are going to make it. If Tech wins, BYU is likely out, and Texas Tech will be the only Big 12 representative this year. So, again, for those two conference championship games to mean anything to Texas, the Longhorns have to be ranked ahead of a few other teams who also aren't playing this weekend when the rankings come out tomorrow night. And again, this is where we just have to cross our fingers and pray that the committee has a change of heart and they start to care about anything besides the number of losses that a certain team has. I mean, it really feels like the only thing they're looking at is the number of losses. They don't care about strength of schedule. They don't care about strength of record. They don't care about ranked wins. They don't care about top 5 losses. They don't care about anything like that. If you have 0, 1, or 2 losses, you're a candidate to make the college football playoff. If you have 3, you can't sit here, Forrest Gump. Sorry about that. I mean, that's been their rigid mantra for the incredibly lengthy 2-year history of the 12-team format. They're acting like they've got to protect something that's been in place forever. You know, you'd think maybe they learned something from watching SMU get absolutely demolished by Penn State. Maybe a 9-3 SEC team could have fared a little bit better than a team with a better record and a significantly weaker conference. But no, we don't care about that stuff with the college football playoff. 2 numbers, wins and losses. No context is needed here. We don't care about the context these days. Doesn't matter. And I already know some of y'all I can hear you commenting below if you're watching on YouTube. Oh, if Texas hadn't lost to Florida, they'd be in. Just don't lose to Florida and you guys would be in. It's not true. The reality is if Texas lost to Oklahoma or Vanderbilt instead of Florida, the Longhorns still wouldn't be in. It's not the quality of the loss that's keeping Texas out, regardless of what Longhorn haters online want you to believe. It's the quantity of losses. You just can't have 3 losses. That's what the College Football Playoff Committee has said. They act like that's a rule that's set in stone and they have to follow it. Yet, again, someone just created this random thing and that's what they're following. Losing to Florida is not what's keeping Texas out. Scheduling Ohio State instead of a cupcake is. A 10-2 Texas with wins over OU, Vandy, and A&M is getting in 100 times out of 100, even if they had lost to a 4-8 Florida team. Teams who scheduled nobodies in non-conference play, they were given a mulligan in league play. Texas wasn't. Texas played 6 teams ranked in the FEI top 40 this year. The Horns went 4-2 in those games. Notre Dame played 3 top 40 FEI teams. They went 1-2. Yet the Irish are locks to make it into the playoff. Why? Because they're 10-2. And Texas has no chance to get in. Why? Because they're 9-3. That's really all the committee is looking at. And they've brainwashed even some Texas fans. They've brainwashed so many people into thinking that it's actually anything more than that when it's just not the case. It's not just Notre Dame, by the way. Miami, Utah, Vanderbilt, none of those teams have any business being ranked ahead of Texas. And if the Longhorns just played somebody a lot worse, you know, Vanderbilt's toughest non-conference game was against Virginia Tech. They fired their coach a month into the season. They're 10-2. Even though Texas beat them, they're ranked ahead of Texas. Why? Because they have one more win than Texas does. All of those teams were somehow ranked ahead of the Longhorns last week. There's a good chance they are again tomorrow night. You know, it's interesting. Lincoln Riley at USC, I'm not going to go to bat for him too much on this show, but he got labeled a coward earlier this year when he came out and said USC may cancel their annual rivalry game against Notre Dame. Texas isn't alone in this boat. Now, Texas has a much stronger case to be in these discussions than USC does, but the Trojans are 9-3 right now. If they played somebody worse than Notre Dame, they'd be 10-2, and we'd be talking about them probably being ranked ahead of Texas and very likely in the mix for a college football playoff spot. But nope, 3 losses. We don't want you. We don't want you. So that's where we're at. And you wonder about the future of these marquee non-conference games. I want them to be played because I think they're great for college football. They're great for the fans. That's what I was before anything else. I hope they don't go away, but it's going to be hard to argue in favor of keeping those marquee non-con games early in the season when the college football playoff committee is like, it doesn't matter. You just have one more loss than anybody else. It's really what it is. Texas should have played Samford instead. So there you go. That's what needs to happen for Texas. I just think I went through the 5 stages of grief in one segment. What is it? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Sounds right. I'm probably a combination of all 5 of those right now, for being completely honest. So there you go. That's all of that has to happen for Texas to be in on Sunday. All right, moving on. That's too depressing for me. The regular season's over. Hey, National Signing Day is this Wednesday. So let's talk a little recruiting. The Horns flipped a star defensive lineman and also landed a 5-star over the weekend. We're going to break it all down next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams in for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is so clutch. Finally, giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time. You can get alerts when great seats open, and you can buy tickets basically the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Just pick a game, tap a section, and boom, you have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. The prices include every fee up front, so you're not hit with any hidden surprise fees right before you purchase. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. Every match, concert, event, game, you name it, Game Time can take care of all of it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And also a shout out to Dewar. Oh, man, I love my Dewar jeans. I told y'all the other day, I wore them to Thanksgiving. I wore them to the Texas A&M game on Friday. I wear them all the time. I've only had them for a month, and I swear it's been 10 days that I've been rocking these Dewar jeans. Why? They look great, and they are so comfortable. It's the best of both worlds. You get that classic jeanswear style, but you also get the comfort and performance that you typically can only find in athletic wear. Dewar jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. So they feel stretchy, but they don't look stretchy. You can dress them up. You can wear them to work. You can wear them out. You can wear them anywhere you are, and you're not going to feel the need to change pants as soon as you get home because they're so uncomfortable. Not the case with Dewar. It's the most comfortable pants, and you don't have to sacrifice style. Truly the best of both worlds. So get a pair for yourself. They make a great holiday gift for somebody else too. ShopDewar.com/LockedOnLonghorns. ShopDewar.com/LockedOnLonghorns. You go there, you're going to get 15% off your first order. ShopDuer.com/LockedOnLonghorns. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. What a weekend it was for our Horns. The main course, of course, the huge win over Texas A&M on Friday night, but that came with a side of major recruiting momentum for the weekend. The crowd at DKR was one of the best that I've ever been a part of. I honestly think it's number 1 or number 2 all time for me, and I've been going to games at that stadium for a decade plus now. That combined with the double-digit win over your biggest in-state rival, it felt like that game had a potential to bring some major recruiting shockwaves for the Longhorns. And obviously with the way that it went down with the big win and the ginormous crowd, it has done a lot for Texas in terms of recruiting. And again, National Signing Day is just 2 days from now. The great news from over the weekend, Texas picked up 2 blue chip commitments. It started with the flip. How about the 4th flip in the last week for Steve Sarkisian and company? 4-star defensive lineman Jamarion Carlton, ranked as a top 100 player in the country for this 2026 cycle. He flipped from Baylor to Texas. We talked about him last week as a flip candidate. Baylor's having a rough season. uncertainty surrounding their athletic director. We're not quite sure what Dave Aranda is going to do. I know they gave him a vote of confidence, but it still feels like he might be out of Waco. It felt like a real possibility that this was going to happen, and sure enough, it did. I mean, Texas hosted Carlton 3 times in the past month. He was here for both the Arkansas and Texas A&M games within the last week and a half, and Texas got it done. Alan Clark, the edge coach, stayed on him hard. Despite the summer commitment to Baylor, Texas never wavered in this one, and all of that hard work paid off. Carlton gave a quote a couple of days before his flip, but he was kind of even hinting towards leaning Texas. He said, quote, Texas just felt like it's going to be the right place to develop me, and just the atmosphere is crazy there, man. End quote. He also said they never gave up and called my phone consistently. That stuff really matters in recruiting. Carlton, about 6'4", 6'5", 260 pounds, ranked as the 89th overall prospect in the nation and a top 10 defensive lineman in the nation as well. How about this? Third recruiting cycle in a row that the top edge prospect in the state of Texas has committed to Texas. 2 years ago, it was Colin Simmons. Things have turned out okay for Texas there. Last year, it was Lance Jackson having a very strong true freshman campaign here in Austin. And this year, it's Carlton, which is interesting because Carlton is listed as a defensive lineman on most recruiting sites. Texas has kind of recruited him more as an edge. He's got a frame that could go either way. He could put on some more weight and play on the inside, or he could maybe slim down a little bit and play off the edge. Wherever he is, it's a big-time get for Texas, and a great job by Alan Clark, who continues to be a gem on the recruiting trail for this Longhorn coaching staff. Only been here for 1 year, and he's made a big-time impact in the world of recruiting. I mentioned earlier that Carlton was the 4th flip for Steve Sarkisian and company. Running back Jet Walker, offensive tackle Caden Scherer, and linebacker Rocky Cummings. Those are the other guys who flipped and now will be a part of this 2026 class on signing day. As it stands, the Longhorns have the 7th ranked class in America for the 26 cycle. The Horns are hoping to sneak into the top 5 for the 4th consecutive year, and it could very well happen. The other big piece of recruiting news from the weekend surrounds the 27 cycle, where Texas landed its first commitment for the class of 2027. 5-star wide receiver Easton Royal chose the Longhorns. He's the 12th ranked player in the nation for next year, the 3rd ranked wide receiver, and he's from the state of Louisiana. Another guy who had been on the Texas campus multiple times within the past month. He was here on Friday for the A&M game, and he committed a day after. Again, that type of atmosphere, that type of win can produce that type of results that quickly. Playing a drinking game. Drink every time I say that. If you do that, you might get in trouble at work. Royal 5'11", 185. Chose the Longhorns over LSU, Oregon, Ole Miss. Those were some of his other early finalists, but he had offers from pretty much everywhere in the country. And he is the first Louisiana kid that Texas has landed since Arch Manning in 2023. Let me rephrase that. He's the first number 1 prospect from the state of Louisiana that Texas has landed since Arch Manning a couple of years ago. Texas has added Louisiana kids since then, but Royal currently the number 1 player in the state. Obviously, Lane Kiffin getting hired at LSU, you know he's going to work really hard to try to keep Royal home, but right now, Texas is in a great spot. He is incredibly fast. 10-3, 100-meter time, 21-3, 200 time. Haven't found his junior stats yet, but put up some ridiculous numbers as a sophomore in 2024. And just a speedster on the outside, the 3rd-ranked receiver in the 2027 cycle, and the first commitment for the Longhorns in 2027 as well. So there you go. A high 4-star and a 5-star committing just 1 day after the victory over the Aggies. You will take that. And we will talk plenty more recruiting over these next couple of days. We'll do some breaking news drops and videos if and when more good news comes down the pike. Real quick, I'll mention this since I brought up Lane Kiffin a second ago. LSU landing him, not great for the Horns' chances of flipping a couple of Tigers commits that Texas had been going after. 4-star offensive lineman Bryson Martinez, 5-star defensive lineman Richard Anderson. Both of them have been in Austin. Both of them have been looking around since Brian Kelly got the axe. But, man, those guys are Louisianans. Like, even if LSU bungled the hire and they couldn't get Lane Kiffin, there's a chance those 2 guys would have stayed with the Bayou Bengals anyways. But with Kiffin coming in, I expect both of those guys to sign with the Tigers on Wednesday. So there you go. Some unfortunate news, but again, for the most part, a lot of good on the recruiting front from the weekend. All right. One segment to go. It's the Monday after a win, which means we've got some game balls to hand out. Who shined in Friday's victory over Little Brother? We'll get to it next on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, a shout out to Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier when you know the perfect gift, right? And Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. It really is incredible. Whether you're treating yourself this season, which you should do, or sending something to family or friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door or right to your door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is going on right now and the deals are huge. The quality is absolutely there. Tender steaks, rich flavors, and great meals. It's not just steaks. They've got burgers. They've got comfort meals. They've got sides. They've got desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits everyone. Some people are hard to shop for. Good food, that works for everybody. Save big on unforgettable gifts right now with Omaha Steaks. Go to omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an additional 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And how about this? For an extra $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. You heard that right. omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See website for details. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Game balls for individual standouts from the Longhorns' 27-17 victory over Texas A&M on Friday night. I have had a smile on my face ever since that game went final. Really, ever since the Kobe Black dagger interception late in the fourth quarter, I've been so happy. And I think a lot of Longhorn Nation agrees with that. All right, so there's so many names that we could choose here because so many guys showed up and showed out in what was a massive game against the Aggies. We're going to start with Trey Wisner because he's a guy who always steps up for these rivalry games. About 19 carries, 155 yards for Trey, 8.2 yards a carry. He's the first Longhorn to crack the century mark in a game this season. I know this rushing offense has been a problem. Trey Wisner has not gotten a lot of game balls this year, but he does for what he did against A&M. And how about this? For Wisner, 2 games against the Aggies, 341 yards rushing. Yeah, had that historically good performance in College Station last season, followed it up with a $155 this season. He is so good in rivalry games. I think over 100 of his 155 were also yards after contact as well. The heart on that kid cannot be measured. He's so good in rivalry games. He was great against OU this year, 94 rushing yards, 34 receiving yards against the Sooners, had a $118 and a touchdown against OU last year. He saves his best for these rivalry games. He's a Texas kid. He knows how much they mean to the Longhorns and Longhorn Nation, and he's a Longhorn legend, man. You know, Quintrevion Wisner is not going to go down as one of the greatest running backs in school history. And I know he still has another year left. I don't want to make it sound like I'm closing the book on him, but he is going to be a fan favorite forever with what he's done in these games against OU and A&M. And if he comes back one more year and does that again next season, that legacy will continue to grow. Shout out to Quintrevion Wisner. The guys in the locker room love him. He's a fan favorite, easy to root for. And what a performance on Friday from him. Another game ball goes to Ethan Burke. Senior night, his last home game at DKR. And, man, he was the best player for Texas. It felt like there were 2 Ethan Burks on the field on Friday. Number 91 was all over the place. 9 tackles for an edge rusher, not easy to do. Half a tackle for a loss, had a PBU, had a blocked field goal in the first half when it was still a scoreless game. Also, number 91 may have had a touchdown-saving tackle on that big KC Concepcion punt return. Like, if Ethan Burke doesn't make that play, and I think Greg McElroy pointed this out on the broadcast, like, it's one-on-one with KCC and Jack Bowmeister, the punter. Love you, Jack. We're not winning that one. That would have been a touchdown if Ethan Burke doesn't make that play. Huge. Third highest graded player on the Texas defense. He should have been number 1. No disrespect to the other 2 guys. He was awesome. What a way for Ethan Burke to go out. Another game ball to Arch Manning, who struggled early on. First half, not good for Arch Manning. He started the game 5 for 17. Well, saved the best for last. How about 9 for 12 to wrap things up? Had a passing touchdown, had the huge rushing touchdown, 7 carries, 53 yards on the ground. A lot of those yards came after contact as well. And how about 3-0 in rivalry games in his first year Oklahoma, Arkansas, A&M. Arch Manning stepped up and delivered. Obviously, 2 of those games were top 10 wins for Arch Manning. He's gotten so much better. We'll talk about Arch a lot in the offseason. He's gotten so much better. It's so easy to see. And yeah, when Texas needed him most down the stretch, he delivered. Arch Manning, another game ball. One for Jack Endries as well. Arch's favorite target against A&M. Finally, God, I was so high on Jack Endries going into the year. I thought he was going to have an amazing season, and it never really came together for him. I mean, it never fully came together for the Texas offense. They've had all sorts of issues. It's not like Jack Endries was the only sort of problem with that side of the football, but I was really high on Endries, and we didn't just see enough of him as a big focal point of this offense in 2025. 4 catches on Friday, ties for a season high, 93 yards, easily a season high. Actually had another diving catch that was negated by a hold. Second highest graded player on the offense. Some big catches in the second half of that game. How about that stiff arm of Aggie safety Marcus Radcliffe to turn what was a big play into a massive gain that set up the Nick Townsend touchdown on 1st and goal. Tight ends helping each other out there. That was awesome. I'm excited about Jack Endries for next year. I'm going to be buying stock again, even though this year wasn't quite what he or I or most people had in mind. Mason Shipley gets a game ball too. 2 for 2 on field goals, hit a 46-yarder, hit a 41-yarder. I don't want to think about what Bert Auburn would have done in that game. Shipley, very reliable. He's been very good this season, especially from inside of 50. He's gone, celebrated senior night, grad transfer coming in, but a good way for him to end his home career at Texas. And then last but not least, I know we usually reserve the Locked On Longhorns game balls for players. Steve Sarkisian gets one. And, Arch Manning actually handed Steve Sarkisian a game ball right after the game went final. I thought that was pretty cool of the quarterback to do. But Sark got the better of Mike Elko for the second straight year. It's a great offensive mind against a great defensive mind. Elko had his way a bit in the first half, but in the second half, when it was nut-cutting time, Sark got it done. He was in his bag. How about that reverse, that tight end touchdown I just talked about? The Nick Townsend, what a great play call right there. There were a lot of guys just wide open in the Aggie secondary. Obviously, the run game got going too. Give Sark some credit for that. Steve Sarkisian, in 2 years in the SEC, 6-0 in rivalry games. The Longhorns have only lost 3 regular season SEC games in 2 years. I know this year hasn't gone the way that all of us wanted, even though Texas should still be in the playoff. But there are a lot of folks out there thinking Texas had no chance to compete in the SEC. No chance to compete in the SEC. To lose 3 games out of your first 16 in the conference, pretty damn good. And Steve Sarkisian, look, first top 5 win in a long time. He had lost 6 straight against top 5 teams. People were calling him the James Franklin of the SEC. We can put that stuff to bed right now. Shout out to Sark. Honorable mentions, Trevor Gooseby was amazing at left tackle, keeping Cassius Howell in check. DJ Campbell had a great day. Michael Taft, the interception on senior night. Leon Galafau replacing Anthony Hill. You beat that team, an undefeated 11-0 top 3 squad by double digits. A lot of guys deserve game balls. Hard to limit it to just 5 or 6, but I wanted to mention those dudes as well. All right, I want to mention you as well. If you made it this far, number 1, God bless you. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all of those great things. You do that, I don't get fired. Really appreciate it. Can't thank y'all enough for your continued support of Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. Game picks, expert analysis, the lock of the day, you name it, they've got it. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. More Texas football conversation tomorrow. Talk some basketball. We'll go around the 40 acres as well. More takeaways from A&M and a lot more to dive into here on Locked On Longhorns. And, of course, National Signing Day coming up on Wednesday. We'll be all over recruiting as well. But that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.